Welcome back everybody. Today we're going over this optic that you see right here. I was going to say little optic, but it certainly isn't little, which we'll get into in greater detail here in just a second. But this is the Vortex AMG UH-1, also affectionately known as the Huey. So this one here came out right around NRA show, I would say. And right up front, they had some problems with the first ones. If you guys do your research on it, one thing you're going to see is big issues with ghost reticles. Basically what that means is if you're looking at the reticle itself, you'd see multiples, sometimes two, sometimes three, sometimes four of the exact same reticle projected in different spots on the actual projection lens here in the optic. This one I got was not from the first batch, so I never experienced it, but I do want to just put that out there. It seems that Vortex has cleaned that up with the ones that they're putting out now, but just heads up, if you get one from the first batch, that is a possibility. However, one thing to note on that, of course, is that Vortex does have an awesome lifetime, no questions asked warranty. And, people have used it in the past. I've used it in the past, and they do honor that as you'd expect. But this one here, again, came out around NRA to a lot of fanfare due to, of course, EOTech and all the issues they've had, as well as the fact that it's just another competitive option for folks that like holographic sights. So holographic sights have pros and cons. We're going to get into those in this video for sure. But up next, we'll take a close look at it. At the end, we'll let you know what I think of it overall. Getting into the details on the optic itself, the first thing I want to talk about is going to be the size. So first off, it's just under 12 ounces on my scale, and it's 3.5 inches long. And width-wise, you'll see the measurement there, but it's pretty similar to what you'd see with some of the EOTech optics out there. So it looks huge. I think that's partially due to a few factors. Number one is that all the electronics are on the bottom. So basically you can see it's almost like two-piece. You can see the line there going all the way across. All the electronics are down there, and then the window and display are on top. That gives you a lower 1/3 co-witness on the AR. Of course, it can be mounted on anything that has a Picatinny or Weaver style rail. I guess I didn't want to go down that road yet, but we will. It does come with a QD mount on there, which is nice. So it's self-adjusting. You can mount it up and then actually just turn it here with this little screw by pushing it through to take the tension off and tighten it down to any of those. So while it is designed, at least in my opinion, for the AR-15 style rifle, it can be mounted on anything with a Picatinny or Weaver mount or rail on top. But anyway, getting back to what I was talking about, is the size of it. That definitely is the first thing you notice when you see this thing. We'll do some comparisons here in just a second, but one thing that people do like about it with that size is the actual window. You'll hear people talk about field of view. I've actually discussed that in a few videos, that I tend to not think with red dots that field of view is a thing because you should be shooting with both eyes open, but I know a lot of people don't. So if you don't, then it is a real thing, and you do get a nice wide window there that a lot of people do like. The actual camera isn't focusing, but we'll get into the reticle here in just a second as well. Before the size comparison, we'll just talk about the basic controls of it. So here on the right side of the optic, we do have our elevation and windage adjustment. Each click is a half MOA, so half inch roughly at 100 yards. They're very positive. You guys can probably hear that. They click in place. There's nothing wrong with those, and they do seem to calibrate out correctly. We also have this little USB charger here, and the reason is this is powered by a CR123 battery. So it's designed to run with the lithium battery. However, they give you the option, which I think is cool, and a lot of people like to run a rechargeable one on there if you want to. So if you want to run a rechargeable on there, you're going to get about 2/3 the battery life, and the battery life they quote is 1,200 to 1,500 hours of runtime. But again, with that rechargeable in there, you can hook it up to a micro USB charging port and just keep recharging it should you choose to do so. Again, they say about 2/3 the battery life is what you could expect as compared to one of the CR123 batteries. So we do have an all aluminum housing, like I said before, that includes the battery compartment with good lines all the way around there. It does come with lubrication there on the threads to prevent any sort of water getting in there. I should point that out as well with the USB port over here, is that it's rated to submersion of 10 meters, I believe, for 60 minutes, even with this little rubber flap here open. So in terms of waterproofness or submersion, out hunting or in the rain or on a duty rifle or something like that, you shouldn't have any issues there. And the way it's sealed, which is interesting as well, is these lenses here, or these windows here in the back and the front, are actually not doing anything in terms of the optic. You can break those windows out and the optic will still work. The projection is all going on inside, which is kind of cool as well, but those are there to seal it up from the weather. Before you, we have an optics smorgasbord here for the size comparison, so we'll move a few of these out of the way and kind of get into it here real quick. This is a Trijicon TA47. It's a 2-power prism style scope. You guys can see it's much smaller and much lighter. It does have some magnification, but it's not going to give you that nice field of view here that you're going to have here with the Vortex, and it's not as forgiving, of course, with eye position. So here we have a Holosun. This is a 503G. This one has the ACSS reticle in there, but it's the same size as most of your Aimpoint micros, your T1s, your H1s, etc. And as you can see, much smaller, much lighter. However, again, field of view wise, for folks that are concerned with that, it's much more narrow as well. Really not even comparable there. I am going to get back to this optic here in just a second, though. And we have our Bro. This is the fixed 4-power prism style scope. It's similar in size to the RCO. It's actually a little bit larger with the electronics built in. But again, size comparison, you guys can see how they stack up there next to each other. And then we have the Trijicon MRO Patrol model. Now, I actually picked this model for a reason, and it's the same reason we're going to go back to this. Now, Vortex designed this to have a nearly invisible signature, at least as it goes forward in terms of reticle producing light going forward, I guess is the best way to say it. So if you guys have only shot during daytime hours, it's probably not something you'd ever notice, but if you've ever been like at a training range in the Army, Air Force, Marines, whatever, Navy, and you guys have your nods on and you're looking at other people when their optics are pointed at you, oftentimes that's how you can identify them. It almost looks like they have a flashlight coming out of the front of their optics, depending on what they're using. So that's one of the reasons that kill flashes became relatively popular, particularly on the RCO model. But you can see there, just as you look through it on the camera, that you can see the little bit of the red dot coming through, even still with that kill flash. So with MRO Patrol, that's one of the ways they chose to sort of offset that capability. Vortex designed that into this optic from the beginning, which is kind of interesting. And other style optics, like most of your aim points and your clones and stuff, are going to have a reddish lens there. You guys can probably see the reticle. I don't know if you can with all the cameras and the lights that we have in here, but it's going to have that reddish lens projecting forward. Again, that's going to be something that is much more visible than just this nearly light-free design here on the Razor. So that is kind of a good thing in my opinion, because I do think more and more people are going to have night vision in the future. So having that lower signature is always good. Now we'll get into the reticle of the optic itself. So first off, it's a holographic sight. So for those of you guys that have never actually looked through an EOTech, of course, they're the most popular of the holographic sights out there, and have never seen sort of how it looks. It's very different than a red dot. So with a holographic sight, essentially you have the reticle being painted on a clear screen rather than projected with an LED like on an aim point, for example, or any of the other red dots out there. So you're going to have sort of a grainy looking reticle when you actually look directly at it. However, it's designed to be looked through. So what I mean by that is you look at your target, the reticle appears on it. At that point, most folks don't notice any sort of graininess or distortion. But if you do look directly at the reticle, you will see that. Now, the reticle itself, the dot in the middle there is a 1.5 MOA dot, and then you have a 65 MOA ring around it. So a lot of people like that for quick acquisition. I agree with that. It's very quick. It's very easy to pick up because you do have that 65 MOA ring around there. And on this UH-1 reticle here, we have that little triangle on the bottom. And what that's designed for is that you are supposed to, at least as they designed it anyway, zero your optic at either 25 or 50 yards, and then use that triangle as the hold off rather when you're at CQB type distances. So you can see the little chart here just showing how it's going to look with different loads and where the point of impact versus point of aim is. But that little triangle is designed to be used to basically offset the offset that you're going to have, which is the mechanical offset of the line where your actual optic is versus where your bore is. So it's going to narrow that gap for people who aren't used to training to hold with the offset. So that is what it's there for. Whether or not you guys use it is up to you. Me personally, I probably wouldn't use it because I'm so used to just holding for the offset, but I know a lot of people aren't. So it gives you an option if nothing else. But the reticle itself, I mean, it is fast. I will give it that. But if you guys have never looked at a holographic sight, I would definitely recommend doing so because there's a lot of preference to it. Some people really like them. Some people really don't. Some people only like holographic sights. So, it's a personal thing on a lot of levels. There's a couple points that I left out, and first off is operation. So it does not have a manual on and off. You have to actually hit the buttons, either the plus or minus, to turn it on to get that battery life that we talked about earlier, and then just hit both of them to power it down and get the reticle off, so that way you save your battery when not in use. So that is, in my opinion, compared to a lot of the competitive options out there, kind of a con, but it's one thing that comes with, again, the holographic sight. It just takes more battery to be able to put that laser out there and that laser reticle. So that is a downside of it for sure. Let's talk about thermal drift, right? With the EOTechs and the issues that they had with their lawsuit. Vortex says they studied that extensively and did testing with all the major optics out there in the market. And this one here, they said, compares to most aimpoint optics. That's coming from them, not from me. I noticed no thermal drift because the entire time I've had it, it's been basically 90 to 110 degrees on the range that I've been shooting. So it's just been really hot. So I haven't had a chance to actually test that yet. Maybe this winter we will, but again, a lot of people have had them at this point, and I haven't really heard any big problems with it. So all red dot optics can have some, and they said theirs was normal, if you will, and has a little bit, but not a ton like the EOTechs did, the early ones that had the problems. So price, let's talk about that. I think the MSRP on it is like $679, but if you head over to Optics Planet, where this one came in from, thanks to them for sending that out for the review, it's $499, and of course you can see the discount code here on the bottom of your screen that they extend to my viewers all the time, which I certainly appreciate. So price-wise, it is priced sort of in the premium red dot marketplace. So you have your MROs, kind of like your H1, H2, in similar price point. And then you have some of the Chinese budget stuff that's below it, right? And then, of course, you have your EOTechs, which are also going to be a little bit lower there. So basically, would I pick this optic up if I was going out shopping for a red dot for myself? No, I wouldn't. And it's not that it's a bad optic. It's just that I prefer one that you can leave on for defensive type use. And for that alone, most holographic sights just don't fit the bill for me. But people who really love them, I would say, yeah, take a look at it. I would say it's absolutely competitive with the XPS 3s, I believe, which are the sort of the highest end EOTechs. It's right up there with them. I like the fact that it seems a little bit more durable in the design with the electronics on the bottom. It could take a lot of impact there on the top and not affect the electronics at all, so that certainly is a good thing. And of course, Vortex warranty is always good as well. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my take on it. I just prefer the look of a red dot. Even, back like in the old days when the argument was M68 aimpoint versus EOTech, I always kind of lean towards the M68 for the battery life, as well as just the presentation for me seems cleaner. But again, there are guys who are very accomplished shooters who know what they're doing that will tell you, nope, holographic sight all the way. So again, it's largely a preference thing. But I think that pretty much sums it up. That's pretty much the optic for you. If you guys have any questions, you can always post down below. Like always, you can also post those questions over at my Facebook page, which is definitely the best way to get in touch with me these days. I don't really see all my comments on YouTube for whatever reason, but I tend to see them over there on Facebook, at least as of now. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing as always. If you're not subscribed and you like what you see, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we will see you guys in the next video.